Hey guys, it's September the 22nd, 2025, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful day so far today. I hope everybody had a nice weekend this past weekend. I had a really good time spending time with my family this past weekend. We spent a bunch of time together, and last night, I just want to apologize for not being here yesterday having a video. I actually did film a video yesterday. I titled it Lies, Cries, and Manipulation. It was actually like 52 minutes long. We had gotten, I told my kids yesterday, you know, why don't you guys pick out a movie for us all to sit down and watch. We usually watch a movie together on Sunday nights. And my oldest son had a movie picked out, and then come to find out it actually wasn't streaming. So we went through our DVD collection to see if we could find it, and it wasn't there. So then we were like trying to pick out another movie and all this kind of stuff. And while they were trying to figure all that out, I was sitting in my chair trying to get the video put together, because I was going to go ahead and, you know, edit it all, put it together, and I was going to upload it while I was just sitting there watching a movie with my family last night. And I woke up this morning. My wife told me that she tried to wake me up multiple times last night, and, you know, I'd say, I'm getting up, and then she you know, go upstairs and start getting the kids together for bed, and she came back down there and I was still asleep, and she wake me up again and say, okay, you need to go ahead and come on upstairs and come to bed. And I just never got up. So I'm gonna just keep yesterday's video that I did as like a backup video for any day that I might need it, where, you know, I might have a procedure going on or something like that. I never put it all together anyway, so I think today I'm gonna go ahead and edit it and put it all together and just save it for a backup video for like an emergency. If I ever have something come up and I just can't film, I'm gonna keep that one as a backup for some days. So I'm just gonna hold on to that. And I'm just going to do a different video today. But, you know, once again, I'm sorry I wasn't here yesterday, guys. It was not intentional. I did not mean to skip. Like I said, I actually filmed. I sat out here for a long time yesterday. But I think it'd just be really a really good idea just to keep that one in my back pocket for, you know, some time that I might need it. So anyway, I had to go to the doctor this morning. I had to go see my GI doctor, and I was over there for a long time. I had to have blood work done, and then we had to have a long conversation this morning about some stuff. You know, he was asking me, you know, when's the last time that you had labs done? And I told him, you know, it's been the summer since I've had them done. But he was like, I want to go ahead and do them today because I want to recalculate your MELD score. So I'm about to find out what my MELD is again here. I'll probably know what my MELD is by the end of the day today, or either tomorrow, I would imagine. So I'm about to have an updated MELD. I'll keep you guys updated on what that is. I'll let you guys know what my new MELD score is. And then coming up October the 14th, I've got to go to the hospital, and I've got to have a endoscopy done and a colonoscopy done on the same day. I am not looking forward to this. I've never had a colonoscopy done before. This is going to be my first time. They've been really pushing me to do one, and I've just, over the past couple of years, you know, they're like, you really need to have a colonoscopy done. You really need to have a colonoscopy done. I'm like, I get it, but I've got all this other health stuff going on. Like, that's the last thing I need to worry about right now. But now they're like, you really need to get this done. I've got some problems in my family with polyps and stuff like that. So, like I said, come October the 14th, they're going to be going down my throat and then going up the other place. And one of the things he told me is that, you know, they want to take a look at the varices. He said that he really wants to look at the esophageal varices and the ones in my stomach. What he was telling me is that they can go ahead and while they're scoping me, and if they see any varices in the esophagus that have become like really enlarged, they're just going to go ahead and ban those on the 14th. He said the ones that are, you know, the ones that are in my stomach, when they go to look at those, they're not going to put bans on those. He said because they kind of like spider out. He said they've got some kind of glue or something that they can use now, I guess, to stop the veins from bursting. I'm not really sure, but I guess I'll find out come that day. And I guess when they do the colonoscopy as well, he was saying, if there's any polyps, we're going to go ahead and remove them. So we'll see how that turns out. And then that coming weekend, I'm supposed to be going out of town, so we'll see what happens with that. I don't know if it's like painful when you have that done. If any of you guys know, if getting polyps removed or any of that's painful, I don't have any idea. Getting like varices banded and stuff like that, it might hurt a little bit, but not too bad. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. I've been at the doctor all day today, getting blood work done and all that stuff, and speaking with the doctor about upcoming plans. I've got a lot of doctor's appointments coming up here soon. I've got to go see my pancreatic specialist, my liver specialist, interventional radiology. I've got an appointment with another hospital because I went to get a second opinion at Emory in Atlanta. They told me no, and then a Mayo Clinic was another one of the hospitals that I was trying to get into. They said no. Which I don't think I've even talked about that on here yet, but I was trying to get into Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic said, nope, we're not doing it. So I'm not going to disclose the last hospital yet until I've talked with them, but there's one more hospital that I'm going to go see, and that's coming up in December. So I'm going to find out if, they're going to be willing to go in there and try to clear out that tips, that stent that I have in my portal vein, because it's totally clogged up right now, and it's been clogged up for like a year. As a matter of fact, it's been a year since all this started. It was in September of last year. For any of you guys that remember that, around this time last year, I ended up in the hospital again. Actually, it was right around October because I was in the hospital for my birthday last year. But anyway, let's go ahead and hop into today's video. Now, I've updated you guys on all my doctor stuff that's going on, and I was thinking about it before I came out here today about what I wanted to talk about, and I was like, what? I haven't really done a day in the life of an alcoholic in a long time, and basically a day in a day in my life when I used to drink, what that was like. I think it's good for to do these videos for people out there, because I think a lot of times when we get deep into our active addiction, and we're drinking every day, waking up first thing in the morning drinking, and these types of things, we begin to we really begin to isolate ourselves, and then we start to think there's nobody else out there who's doing what I'm doing right now, and we really begin to believe that we're the worst drinkers out there in the world. There's nobody else out there that's doing it like I am. And that's why I want to talk about this today, because, I think it helps to know that there are other people who, drank the way that you're drinking, the frequency, the amount, the type, and to know that there are other people that are going through the same types of things, waking up in the morning and throwing up first thing, waking up and then, throwing up and then forcing a drink down in the morning. These are things that I think it really helps to let people know that they're not alone in their struggles, and that there are other people who have or are going through those things right now as well, and that you can get through it. So anyway, like I said, I want to talk about what a day in my life was like back when I was a drinker. When I, going from waking up first thing in the morning all the way through my day. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and just do what a regular day was like for me when I was in the restaurant industry as a chef. So let's just go ahead and start. Every single day when I would wake up in the morning, I was always hungover because I drank so much the night before. So usually when I woke up in the morning, a lot of times I blacked out the night before and ended up somewhere strange. I used to wake up in the weirdest places, on the bathroom floor, on the closet floor, out in the yard in a vehicle. I would go somewhere with my wife, and she'd try to wake me up, after we got back home, and she couldn't wake me up. I would just be asleep in the passenger seat, so she would just have to leave me. I've woken up in the car, just all kinds of weird places. So there's no telling where I would wake up. It just varied all the time, but for the most part, a lot of times I would wake up on the couch, because I used to sit on my back porch every single night when I get off work, and I would drink, and then I'd come inside at some point, and I'd sit down on the couch, turn the TV on, and I would sit there and drink for a little bit, and then I would just fall asleep. So like I said, I used to wake up on the couch all the time. So, a normal day, I'd probably wake up on the couch. As soon as I open my eyes in the morning, I'm confused, didn't know what had happened. I'm trying to piece together the night before. But the first thing that happened every single morning, from the moment that I woke up, I started feeling like I was going to throw up. I would be nauseous every single day when I woke up. This went on for a long time of just being really nauseous every morning and trying my best to fight that urge of throwing up away. But over the years of dealing with that, I finally realized that if you do throw up, you feel a heck of a lot better. So, I started doing the whole sticking my finger down my throat and throwing up. And then it got to the point, I was doing this every single day. It got to the point where I didn't even have to even stick my finger down my throat anymore. I just leaned over the toilet, and it was automatic. All I had to do was think about it, and I could make myself throw up. So I'd get up, go to the bathroom. First thing, every single day, without fail, I would just lean over the toilet and puke. Sometimes I'd walk out back or something like that to do it if I didn't want my wife to hear me, but I would throw up first thing every day. It was the very first thing I did. After I threw up, then I'd go get myself a drink, either that be a beer or a mixed drink. And I would say it was 50-50. Some mornings I'd wake up really, really thirsty, and beer just sounded a lot better to drink because I was so parched. But there were mornings where I just wanted my liquor. It just really depended. But let's say this day I'm talking about, I'll wake up, throw up, and then I would go in the kitchen, get my liquor out, make myself a mixed drink really quick. And then it was time to go to the bathroom, because every single day my stomach was an absolute wreck. My stomach always was just tore up. So, I'd go in the bathroom, spend an hour just sitting on the toilet with diarrhea every morning. And a lot of times, too, I'd have to grab the trash can, put it right in front of me between my legs, because as I'm sitting there going to the bathroom with diarrhea, I would have to throw up. It's just insane. And I was causing all of this stuff to happen to me. But, like I said, here I am. I'm in the bathroom. I've got a trash can between my legs. I've got a mixed drink sitting right there on the edge of the tub. That would be my little coffee table where I'd set my drink or whatever else I had in there with me. And, I'd just be sitting there playing around on my phone, drinking my mixed drink, going to the bathroom. And, I would spend so much time on the toilet in the mornings that when I would go to stand up, my legs would be so numb that a lot of times I couldn't even walk. My legs would be that numb. I'd have to slowly stand up and kind of waddle my way out of the bathroom until, the feeling would come back in my legs. And, then I would go ahead and go to get my clothes together for work. I'd go ahead and lay those out on my bed, get those all together. I'd go ahead and grab all my stuff for the day. And then I'd go into my kitchen. And this is, I was just talking about this earlier this week, but I'd go ahead and go to the kitchen. I would find all of my little mini bottles from the night before, because I used to save those. And I would take all those mini bottles, I'd go to the kitchen sink, wash all those little mini bottles back out with soap and water, and then I would go ahead and get my little funnel out. I had a little teeny funnel for a little flask funnel. I would take that little flask funnel, I'd go and put it in top of the little mini bottles, and I'd get my liquor bottle from the night before, and there'd usually be maybe that much in the bottom. I'd go and get that liquor bottle, that half gallon of vodka, and I'd start filling up all those little empty mini bottles that I had, so that I could take them with me to work. So, now I've got maybe 6 to 8 of the double shot Fireball mini bottles, and they would be filled up with vodka. I'd throw a couple in my backpack. I'd go ahead and put one in each one of my socks, and maybe one in each one of my pockets. And, now I've got my liquor on me. And then if there was enough liquor still, I'd grab a water bottle and fill that up with liquor. And most of the time, I already had a water bottle that was just somewhere that had liquor in it. I always had a water bottle, a backup emergency liquor bottle of water. And that was usually in my backpack or in my vehicle or something like that. So I'd have that as a backup as well. And, now I've probably had 2 mixed drinks. I had to, I've gone to the bathroom for an hour. I already threw up probably a couple times that morning. I'd go ahead and hop in the shower real quick, brush my teeth, go ahead and get dressed, and then I would go ahead and I would make myself one more mixed drink for the road, and then I'd go ahead and head out for work. I would not have that mixed drink right up with me. There was always a cooler in my vehicle that I kept beer in. I always had a little cooler in my vehicle that had beer in it. So I'd take that mixed drink that I made, always made sure that I put a lid on it. I would have one of those Yeti cups, put the lid on it, and I would set it inside of my cooler with the beer. And then I'd go ahead and drive to work. And then as soon as I started getting close to work, there was a dirt road that ran right behind my place of employment. As soon as I hit that dirt road, I knew it was A-okay. And I would drive like a mile an hour down this dirt road. I'd grab that drink that I put in my cooler, and I'd go ahead and slam that last liquor drink that I had as I was pulling into my job. Get to work, get myself on my little Listerine strips out, throw that in my mouth real quick so that I could cover up the smell of the booze. And then I'd go ahead, park and walk into work. And, I'd walk in the kitchen, say good morning to all my guys, walk out front, take a look at the reservation book for the night, all that kind of stuff, see what the day was looking like. As soon as I got done doing that, I went back into the kitchen, and then I told my guys I'm going to go take a look at the walk-in and freezer and see what the food looks like in there. And then I'd go in there and take those little mini bottles that I'd brought with me, and I'd start stashing them in little places in the walk-in and the freezer, because I didn't want to walk around with those mini bottles on me the whole entire shift. I just went ahead and just stashed them like in between things in the freezer and in the walk-in cooler. And then I'd go ahead and get started with my day and just, start setting things up, prepping things, writing down, starting truck orders, just whatever I had to do. And then we'd go ahead and get into the lunch rush. Right before the lunch rush would happen, though, I'd run into the cooler, I'd grab one of those mini bottles, take a shot, and then go back into the kitchen and go through lunch. And then, after lunch was over, back to the walk-in or the freezer, grab myself another one of those mini bottles, take a shot, and then it was time to go to the bathroom again in the afternoon. Every single day after the lunch rush was over, I was back in the bathroom. I would tell my guys, if anybody's looking for me, I'm going to be in the bathroom. And then I would just disappear back off to the bathroom again, probably spend an hour in there in the afternoon. And the bathroom that I always used was outside. There was no air conditioning in it. It was a very private bathroom that was at the back of the building. And nobody ever used that bathroom except for me, really. So it was kind of like my private bathroom that I always used. But like I said, there's no AC in there. And man, during the summertime, I would be in there so hot. As a matter of fact, I was sitting on that toilet one day, and I was sweating so bad that I actually slipped off the toilet and fell on the floor. It was not a good day right there. But anyway, like I said, after lunch rush, I'd take another shot, go sit in the bathroom for another hour. Diarrhea, just horrible. Get back off the toilet. My legs are numb again. My butt hurts from just being on the toilet for that long. And I'd get back in there and get back to work. And then at some point in the afternoon, I'd tell my guys, hey, I've got to run to the store real quick. And that was every single day. I'd always have to go to the store. And I've spoken about this so many times. There was always something. I got to go get onions or squash, or I need to go get some flour. I was always missing something that I needed. So I'd go ahead and leave. I'd run to that liquor store real quick, grab my bottle for the day. Okay, I've got that. Now I'm set. Probably stop by the gas station, grab a couple packs of smokes and a bottle of Sprite. And now I've got my mixer, I've got my cigarettes, and I've got my liquor. Now I can go back to work. I can actually really put my head down and grind, because I've got my booze for when I get off. I've got my cigarettes for when I get off. I've got the mixer for my liquor. I've got everything I need. My day is set. Now I've just got to make it through the rest of the day so I can get off work and drink as much as I want. And then I would start to get excited. The day is getting close to being done. I'm about to be able to drink as much as I want and wash away all this stress. all these feelings, I can just drink them away. All the anger and frustration and aggravation and all these things. As soon as I get off, it'll all go away. I'll be able to wash it all down. And I forgot to mention, too, is when I woke up in the morning, after I would throw up and all that stuff, I went into the kitchen and I would grab myself a handful of Advil. And when I say a handful, I mean a handful of the liquid gels. And I would throw probably 3 or 4 of those liquid gels down, or if it was the little red ones, I would just probably throw like 6 of them down. And then the rest of them I'd throw in my pocket. That way I had Advil in my pocket for the rest of the day, and a couple of Tums. I'd eat a couple of Tums first thing in the morning and then throw a couple in my pocket. So, right before the dinner rush, I'd go ahead and take a couple more Advil, because I would always have a headache. And my legs and my back would be hurting me, so I'm taking a couple more Advil, probably a couple more Tums, because, I'm starting to get the acid indigestion setting in. I haven't eaten anything all day. I never ate, ever. I always kept my stomach completely empty for the booze, because, man, did it hit different when you had an empty stomach. There was food in there, it just did not hit the same as an empty stomach. You get that burn as the liquor's going down, and man, you feel it quick. So I didn't eat all day long. My blood sugar would be low. I would be feeling horrible, but I didn't care, because I wanted to make sure, like I said, that I got every bang for my buck when I got my alcohol in me. So here it is, probably 5:30, 6 o'clock. We're about to go into the dinner rush. I grab all my guys together, do a quick little powwow with them. Everybody high fives. Today's going to be great. We're going to rock and roll and make all the guests happy. And then I'd get everybody on their stations, and I cooked as well. Just because I was the chef did not mean I walked around just doing this number. I was in there with those guys. I was on the line every single day, sauteing, cooking. I cooked every day, but for lunch and dinner. So I was in there with them. We were grinding and slinging food. But right before that dinner rush, I was right back out there in that freezer again. I'd grab another one of those little mini bottles I had stashed away earlier in the day, take another shot or 2, whatever. And then I'd get in there and we'd start, pumping out the dinner rush. And as the dinner rush is going on, I'm just in there, being wherever I needed to be. If I needed to help somebody cook over here, or help somebody cook over here, or maybe I needed to go whip up some mashed potatoes real quick, or just whatever needed to happen, I would take care of it throughout the rush. And as soon as dinner was over, went around, high-fived all my guys, told them all good job, and then I went straight up to the bar every single night, same thing. I'd ask the bartender for a cup, and they would give me a styrofoam, like a 16-ounce or a 20-ounce styrofoam cup. They go ahead and hand it to me. They fill it all the way up with ice, and they just put like that much Sprite in there. They just took the little gun and just sprayed just a little bit in my cup. They knew what I wanted, and they throw a little lime in there for me in a straw, because I just needed a cup with enough mixer in it and the straw to be able to mix so that I could mix a drink for my ride home. I grabbed my styrofoam cup as I was walking out the building, told all my guys, see you later. Went and sat in my vehicle before I even started my car. I grabbed my liquor bottle that I had hidden in there that I just got from the liquor store earlier that day, opened that up, and then I would fill up the rest of my styrofoam cup completely up to the top with alcohol or liquor. And then I would take that straw, stir my liquor drink up, make sure it was all thoroughly mixed, put my lid on it, and then it was time to ride home. And, I would go ahead and drive home, about a 25-minute drive home, and I would drink that drink. And then as soon as I got to the house, I would park in my driveway. I never wanted my wife to know exactly how much I was drinking. So I'd park in my driveway. I'd take that cup that I had used to drink my drink on the way home. I had my bottle of Sprite right back there on the back seat and my liquor back there. So as I sat in the driveway, my wife couldn't even see me, because we live down a very long driveway. It's long. So when I was up at the front of the driveway, she couldn't even see me. So I'd just sit up there at the front of the driveway by the mailboxes, and I'd mix myself another really, really strong drink. And I'd just sit there, maybe make a phone call or play on my phone or watch some YouTube videos or whatever. But I'd sit up there at the end of the driveway for 20 minutes and maybe drink 2 really, really heavy drinks. And I mean fast, too. probably a pint of liquor that I drank within a matter of 10 minutes. And then I'd go ahead and drive the rest of the way back up the driveway and then park. And then I'd go ahead and get all my stuff situated, and then go ahead and go into the house. And if I had mini bottles, I'd go ahead and get those, because I always bought the little 3-ounce bottles of Fireball. When I went and bought my liquor, I'd get like 6 at a time. So I'd grab my little bottles of Fireball, stick one in one sock, stick one in the other sock, go ahead and stash some in my waistband, put some in my pockets, wherever I could hide them. That way I knew that, like, I didn't want to have them somewhere hidden where I had to retrieve them at some later point in the night, because my wife would have caught on to that. If they were already on me and I wasn't doing anything weird and I told my wife, I've got to go to the bathroom, she wasn't, suspecting that I was drinking in there. Although she probably did anyway. But like I said, I'd go ahead and get all my mini bottles stashed on me and then walk into the house for the night. There would be beer in there. I always kept Voodoo Ranger and the Imperial Voodoo Rangers, which were like the highest percentage alcohol, or like the Dogfish IPA. I think they were like 13%. I mean, super high. But those would be in the fridge. So I'd go inside, grab myself a beer, tell my wife I've got to go to the bathroom really quick and get cleaned up really fast. And I'd go in there, take another shot, maybe change my clothes, put on some, clean clothes for the night. And then I'd go into the kitchen and grab myself another beer, because at that point I've already drank that beer. Go in the kitchen, grab another beer, and then go walk out and sit on my back porch. And then a lot of times my wife would come out there and sit down and talk to me for a few minutes. I'd sit out there and smoke a cigarette and drink my beer and tell her how the day went, what kind of stuff happened or whatever. And, at some point she'd be like, okay, well, I've got to go ahead and go to bed, because, I've got to get up and go to work in the morning. And I'd say, okay. I'd give her a kiss goodnight, and she'd go ahead and go lay down. The kids would usually already be in the bed by the time I got home from work. And then I was free for the rest of the night. My wife's in the bed now. She would close the bedroom door so I wouldn't wake her up. The kids are all in their beds. And like I said, I was free at this point. And then, I'm getting on my phone, texting my neighbors, because, right before we lived here, we lived in a neighborhood, and I was friends with all the people that lived there. So, let's say that I was living there. I'd get on my phone and start texting people. What you up to? You doing anything tonight? You want to have a beer with me or whatever? And, most of the time, 99% of the time, somebody would get back with me and say, let's do it. And, it was usually like, give me half an hour and let's, meet outside. So I'd go ahead. My wife's asleep at this point, so now I can go get my liquor bottle out, go grab a cup, and then start mixing, my big Yeti cup liquor drinks. And I'd, mix myself a huge cup, go sit on the back porch, smoke a cigarette, maybe listen to some music while I'm waiting on whoever it is I'm going to hang out with that night, tell me that they're ready. And then, as soon as I got that text, I was outside. And I'd walk down to one of my neighbors' houses, take my bottle of liquor, I'd put that in my backpack, I'd have to take my big bottle of Sprite, and I'd walk down to my neighbor's house. And at this point, it's probably 11, 12 o'clock at night. I've been up since, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's almost midnight, and I'm ready to rock and roll and really party at this point. I'm walking down to my neighbor's house, I'd get down there, and then I would just hang out with them and drink until I just couldn't do it anymore. And depending on the night and what happened, all kinds of crazy stuff used to happen. People would show up. Next thing you know, we're just disappearing and leaving, going to a bar, or somebody all of a sudden breaks out a little baggie, and before you know it, we're up all night long. Just crazy things used to happen. But, once again, here it is. I've worked all day. I've probably worked a 12, 14-hour shift. And then I'm right back at it again, and I was hungover every single day. That was already hard enough to deal with. And then, working all day like that. And then I'm pushing myself because, just going home and laying down and going to bed, that wasn't enough for me. I always had to be in the middle of something. I always had to be, in the middle of some trouble or some action. Just regular life wasn't attractive enough for me. There had to be more drama, more of this, more of that. It always had to be up and above. I just never could settle for normal life. I didn't know what I was missing back in those days. I was always pushing myself way too hard. I felt like I was missing something if I wasn't always mixed up with everybody and what was going on. And once again, now that I've gotten sober, I realize, man, that life sucks. It sucks so bad because you're always so tired and so hungover, and your head constantly hurts, and your blood pressure's through the roof, and your anxiety levels, they're off the charts. You can't even, like, there's no measurement for the amount of anxiety that you have. You're waking up first thing in the morning with your heart beating out of your chest, and you just feel like you're about to have a panic attack. Every single day, it's the same thing. Like I said, here I am walking down to a neighbor's house at midnight, and I'm ready to go. And, you know, we would drink until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I would get to the point where I was seeing cross-eyed, could barely speak. You know, I'm just standing there. And when I would get to the point, too, and this is usually when I knew night's over, when the hiccups started. You know, because I always drank on an empty stomach. And at some point in the night, because I drank on an empty stomach, and this happened every night, the hiccups would start. You know, and I couldn't talk anymore because every single time I would hiccup. And then I would start getting really frustrated with the hiccups. You know, I would hiccup so much, the next thing you know, I would start to throw up. You know, I'd hiccup and throw up all over the place. That's when the night was over. When the hiccups started, and then I'd start throwing up because of the hiccups, it was like, okay, I've had enough. It's time for me to go home. As soon as I got done with that and started going back home, all I was thinking about now was peanut butter. For any of you guys out there who have hiccups a lot, if you get hiccups all the time, get yourself a big spoonful of peanut butter and just eat it, just like that. Just put the spoon in your mouth and just get the peanut butter right off of it and swallow it. Don't drink anything for a minute. Just swallow the peanut butter and give it a second. The hiccups will go away. Trust me, I did it every single night. We used to go through so much peanut butter because I used to eat it all the time because I had such bad hiccups at night. If I went anywhere, let's say I was going to a party or I was going to somebody's house or I was going to a bar, I used to have a little container that I kept with me that had peanut butter in it. I'm not kidding, in a plastic spoon. I had it with me everywhere I went. It was always in my backpack, a little teeny tiny little Tupperware container. But anyway, all I wanted to do at that point was just get back home so I could get myself a big spoonful of peanut butter to make the hiccups go away. I take it myself maybe a couple more Tums, and I'd end up wherever. You know, at that point, I was in and out of remembering what's going on. I was definitely blacked out, and you know, I would just go home and end up somewhere and pass out. A lot of nights I'd wake up, a lot of mornings I'd wake up sitting up. You know, I'm sitting straight up on the couch. I just passed out sitting there, or sitting in my recliner, or whatever. There were nights, mornings I woke up, I was sitting on the table out back, just sitting in my chair. Like I said, I used to wake up in the weirdest places. On the bathroom floor, I would be asleep in the tub. I would just get in the tub and cover myself up with a towel and pass out. I mean, it's just the weirdest things. And then here we are again the next morning, waking up all to it all over again. You know, I wake up, open my eyes, don't even realize how I got to where I was. I get that first initial feeling, just like every single day. The first thing that I felt when I woke up in the morning was I need to throw up. You know, it was automatic. You know, as soon as I opened my eyes, it was, oh, I gotta throw up. Straight to the bathroom, throw up, you know, until I just couldn't throw up anymore. You know, and I would, you know, I could throw up immediately without doing anything. But then, you know, if I still wasn't feeling good, I'd stick my finger down my throat to make it come up more. And then once I got to that point where I started feeling decent enough, then I knew I was good. But, you know, here I am leaning over the toilet. I have sweat just pouring off of me, snot coming out of my nose. You know how it is when you're puking. And, you know, my eyes are so red. And oftentimes, too, I would throw up so much I would burst blood vessels in my eyes. So then I'd you know, go to work, and the whole white of my eye on one side would be bloodshot red. And my guys would be like, dude, what happened to you? Somebody punch you? And I'd have to tell them, no, I was throwing up this morning. I must have busted a blood vessel. And, you know, it was so obvious what was going on with me. You know, I had all those, the blood vessels in my face, the ones I've got right here. I can't remember what those are called. Those would be really bright red, too, especially in the mornings, because my face would be so red because, you know, I was so hungover. And like I said, the day would start and all that stuff would repeat all over again. And we're not even talking about what I would do on my days off. That was just a work day. I'll do one of my days off, coming up here soon. But that was a work day, getting up in the morning, puking, going to the bathroom, drinking first thing. And I didn't mention this either, but there were a lot of mornings where I was in the bathroom throwing up as soon as I puked. I was trying to force down a liquor drink. And often I would have to stand over the sink as I tried to drink my drink, because I would get to right as the drink would start going down, and it would just automatically, I had no control over it. It would come right back up. So I would have to stand over the sink and try to force this liquor drink down. And as I was pouring it down my throat, it was, I would start, and it would just come right back up. It was spit right into the sink. And then I'd throw it right back up, and then I'd have to force it down again. And I would have to keep doing that, for 10, 15 minutes or so, just trying to force a drink down so that I could get the shakes to go away. And that's all I was trying to do, was just force the drink down to make the shakes go away. And it was a feat in itself just to get that liquor to stay in my stomach, because my body wanted to do nothing but reject it. It didn't want it anymore. My body was already poisoned from it from the day before, and it's screaming out, don't put any more of this in me. And there I was, forcing it down because I had to have it. I don't miss those days one bit. I really don't. I'm so glad that I've gotten away from that now. But the thing is that I still, myself, I have to stay on top of my sobriety every single day. If I let it, anything slip, I could relapse just like anybody else can. I am not immune to relapse. It could happen to me with all of my health problems and everything else. I have bad days. I have days where I want to drink as well. There were some days last week where I struggled really bad. But at the end of the day, it's all about the decisions that we make. Deciding what you're going to do in that day and not thinking too far into the future, not trying to plan all this stuff out and what you're going to do on this day or that day or whatever. It's just about today. And are we going to drink today? And I hope that whoever you are watching this right now, that you've made the decision today, just today, to not drink or not use. Whatever it is that you are trying to stay away from, I hope that you were successful in doing so today. We'll worry about tomorrow when tomorrow gets here. But for today, September the 22nd, let's not drink. Let's not use. Let's stay sober one more day. If you make it through today and you decide you want to drink tomorrow, well, that's tomorrow, and you can do that then. But for today, let's just stay sober today. Let's just do it. We can make it through one more day. We really can. Like I said, if you decide you want to drink tomorrow, I promise you there are liquor stores, alcohol. You can buy alcohol anywhere. It's one of the hardest things about quitting booze is that it's not like quitting a substance where, you just remove that person's phone number out of your phone, or, don't go where they hang out at or whatever if it's a substance like that, But with alcohol, it's everywhere. I mean, Dollar General, the grocery store, the gas station, anywhere. Alcohol is everywhere. It's almost impossible to completely avoid unless you just move out into the middle of the woods somewhere and build yourself a log cabin and don't go out very often. I mean, you're going to run across booze pretty regularly. And like I said, that's what makes it so difficult to stay away from, because of the accessibility of alcohol. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to talk about that today and just basically give you guys a sneak peek into what a day was like for me as a chef when I was working during a work day. I drank from the time that I woke up until the time that I passed out at night. I also forgot to include this as well, but after our lunch rush every single day, I would say at least every other day, there would be a wine rep that came in. And I was always doing like chef's tables, plated dinners, wine dinners, all these different things. And the wine rep would come in and meet with the beverage manager, and myself and the beverage manager would sit down and taste wines because I needed to know what the wines tasted like so that I could pair the food with them. And I a lot of times would write menus around the wine. It wasn't the other way around. So it wasn't like I was writing a menu and then they were developing the wine menu around my menu, which did happen a good bit. But majority of the time, I was writing my menu around the beverage selection. So they would have, let's say 6 wines picked out, and then I had to taste them and decide what would go well with them, and then write a menu based around those wine selections. So, like I said, every other day or every day, there was always another wine rep from another company that was coming in, and they would have their samples with them, and they were trying to push their wine. And, it's hard to sell somebody a wine without letting them taste it first. So, once again, we would have all these free samples of wine every day. So after lunch, I'd go out front, sit down, and for half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, I was drinking wine. And, on top of everything else I drank that day. So, and it was, as soon as they said, hey, we're about to do wine tasting, I knew right away I better get involved in that. This is the manipulation, like tactics that we have when we're in active addiction. In my mind, I'm thinking I need to get into that wine tasting because I've been drinking all day. And if I go in and taste some wines and my boss sees me and they're doing that, if he smells booze on me later, I was just tasting wine. What are you talking about? I haven't drank anything else other than the wines I just tasted. You saw me doing it. There was nothing that he could say, but those are the things I'm already like thinking out in advance, that I need to get into that wine tasting just so that if I do smell like alcohol, that I've got an excuse for it. And that was my day every day. It was just whatever I had to do in order to drink, I was willing to do it, and I would. And I drank from the time I woke up in the morning until the time I blacked out and passed out at night. And that was every single day. And since I've gotten sober, my life has become so much better. There's so much more to do, and I'm interested in so many more things now. It's not just getting drunk and passing out. My life has evolved into something so much more complex than that, and I can't be happier with the way things have turned out for me, even with all the health problems that I have. I'm actually able to live my life now and not live my life for alcohol. So once again, guys, I hope that whoever you are watching this right now, that you've made the decision today, just for today, to stay sober and not go back, not to gamble, not to drink, not to use, not to shop, not to do whatever it is that you're trying to get away from. Today, just today. We'll worry about tomorrow when it gets here. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And once again, I am so sorry I wasn't here yesterday. Like I said, I did do a video. I just fell asleep last night, and that's not like me. I really do apologize, guys. But until tomorrow, I will see you all then. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I love you all so much. Bye.